So today we will be doing the queue data structure in JavaScript, and yesterday I showed you what we are going to do. Let's say if I have a array of array with the name A, this is my array. Now if I want to, okay, sorry, I did not share, sorry. Thank you for reminding. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Okay. So let's say if I have a array A and this is empty array initially. Now I have to implement the queue. Queue means when person A will come, I have to insert that person inside this array A. So there are two methods. I will go with one method now and I will go with another method afterwards. So I can say a.push person A. So now if I see A has a person A. Now another person came to in the queue with the name of B, and I use a.push, and then I will see the A array. It is having the person A and person B. So who came first? Person A came first and person B came second. So this is queue. Since this is queue, so the person who comes first will go out first. Now since person A come first, now it has to go out first. Now what will I use here to let this person go first? Which command of the array or which function of array I will use so that I can remove person A first? A.shift, right. So I will use A.shift, then person A will be removed from the array, and if I see the A now, it has a person B. Okay, so whenever I will use push, we are talking about the queue. Whenever I will use push, I have to use shift to make it a queue. I cannot use pop, because if I use pop, I am removing it from the end element, which is not right. Queue means the one person who enters first should go out first. Since person B came second, he should go second. So that is the reason I have to use push with shift to implement the queue. Okay, so this is, you have to remember, you have to add with the push and you have to remove with the shift. Now what happens if someone, let's do the another way. Someone wants to add with unshift. So let's say he will put unshift of person A, and then he will again put unshift of person B. Okay, now what is B consist of? Person A and person B. Since person came first in the queue, it should go first. So that means we have to remove from the end, not the first, if we are using the unshift. So if I want to remove from the end, I will use B.pop, and person A is removed. And if I see B is a person B remaining. So either you can use push with shift to implement the queue, or you can also use unshift with pop to implement the queue. So either way, in both the cases, we are implementing the queue, and both are right. It doesn't mean that one person is using this, another person is using this. That means both are right. Not a single, you cannot say that this person is right or this one is right. In reality, both are right, because you are using push with shift or you are using unshift with pop to implement the queue. So ultimate goal should be the person who enters first should go first. That is the aim of the queue. Now this is the example of the queue. Now we will do the real queue object, which you have to remember. And on Monday, I will ask every one of you to write down this object without looking in a book or without referring any document. And this is the real object which I am creating now. So pay attention closely because this is very important. So I will create a function. I will name this function. Okay, I will be asking question also. Okay, I will name this function as Q. And this is the function. And you know, I will convert this function to an object by calling var q1 equal to new q. So this is not really a function. This is the object which we will be creating from this function. So my ultimate goal will be to create the object in this format using this function. I can create multiple objects like q1, q2, q3. All will be using this function, but all three will be object. Okay, so the goal of this exercise is to create a function which will be used to create the object in this format. And everybody knows what is this, that we can create object from the function. That is the reason I have used this function. I could have directly used also like this, var q equal to an object like this, and I could have used key value pair. This also. This is another way to create the object, but with this exercise or whatever we will do in the data structure, we will follow this pattern. Always we will create a function and then we will create object from that function. So that is what we are going to do in all of our data structures. Now, since I am making the queue, I should be able to add items in the queue. Okay. And I should be able to remove items from the queue. What functionality I need in the queue? I should be able to peek item in the queue. I will tell you what exactly is peek. Okay. I should be able to check the size of the queue. How many people are there in the queue? I should be able to display the whole queue also. But this is not needed. This is only for our understanding purpose. What are the people in the queue? So this is only, since this will be not used practically, this is only for our demonstration to see how many are there. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 functions are enough to build the queue. Okay, so this is the function, and this is how we call this function to create an object. So before I write down further, just write down this in your notepad, and then we'll go further. I'll give you 2 minutes to finish this. One, two people, 2 are done. Let me see who else. Okay, done. Okay, if you are not done, just do it slowly and I will move further. Now, since I will be adding the items in the queue or removing the items in the queue or checking which item is in the queue or checking the size of the queue or displaying the whole queue, I need some variable to hold this item. If you remember a few minutes back, I create a variable A with the array. So we need some variable which I will put in this object or in this function so that I can track what items were added and what items were removed. So the first aim will be I will put this dot data equal to array. So I will create a empty data. This is the variable. And why I use this? Because I will be creating the object, and each object will point this to each object. So for example, in this case, this will be this object. And in the second case, this will be this object. In third case, it will be this object. So every time, whenever I have to create the object, I will always use the this variable so that I can refer to each object separately. So when I say this dot data equal to this Q1 has different set of data, and Q2 will be having different set of data, Q3 will be having different set of the data. So this will be pointing differently to each of the object. And you know, everyone knows this inside the function is tied to this object and not to the global object, as we discussed previously. So if you see, previously we say var a equal to array. Similarly, we need some variable to hold all the items. That's why I say this dot data equal to array. So this is the initial empty array I created it. Now inside this function, I will be creating different functions like add function. So I will say this dot add equal to function. So I created one function, this dot add. I will say this dot remove as another function. I will fill the body in a minute. So I created another function called as remove. Then I will say this dot peek as another function. So this is the peek. Then I will say this dot size as another function. Okay, so these are the function, and last I will say display. This dot display as the last function. This function is useless, but we are creating it. I will write down this function is useless. Okay, why I am putting useless? Because this is only for our purpose to understand what is the data here, or what is the what are the items. Okay, for real purpose this is not needed. Okay, so just before I go further, just create this empty structure in your function, and we'll go further. So say this dot data equal to empty array, this dot add, this dot remove, this dot peek, this dot size, this dot display. So just write down this one. Let me remove lines so that you can see. Okay, so this is the empty structure right now. We will fill it in a bit. Let me know when you're done. Anand is done. Nikhil done. Ole done. Okay. Okay, now let's try to fill each of this function to make this queue in a working condition. So as we learnt in for the A, that to add the elements I was using a.push, and I was putting person A, and I was putting person B like this. So we need to use the push to add the data inside this one. So whenever I will call add, I need to pass the item also. What item I want to add? This item. I want to pass item. So I'm passing the item here for the add function. And here I will say, here I'm using A, but in this case, I will be using this dot data. So I will say this dot data dot push. And what I want to push? I want to push this item. I want to push this item. So this is the dynamic. This item will be sent by the user. So I will put this item here. And that's it. So I'm putting this add. I'm completing this add function by putting this data item. Just write down this function, add function. This function is done. We are adding the data. Okay, everyone done about this line. Now we have to remove the item. Since when we were doing A, if I want to remove the item, I was using A dot shift and I was removing the item in this case, which we have done previously. So I have to use always shift here to remove the item. So similarly here in the remove, I will use this dot data dot shift to remove it, and in the remove I will return this value because I want to see which item I am removing. So for example, if I am using A dot shift, person A will be displayed. So whenever I remove, I want to return it what I am removing it. So I am removing the person A in the first case, and that's what I have written here. So whenever we have to remove, we have to return what I am removing it. So for example, person A, I want to see person A. For the second case, I want to see person B so that I know what item I am removing it. So just this is the line of the code in the remove. Just say return this dot data dot shift. So in the remove, we will not pass item because already the item is in the data. So removing will be from this data, not something we have to pass. We don't have to pass in the remove. Like in the shift, we are not passing anything. It removes automatically the first element in the array. Similarly, here we not pass item because removing is removing from this data. So we don't need to remove anything. We don't need to pass any item. Hold in. Okay, so let me know when it's done. Just write on the remove function. Okay, done. One person is done. Nikhil done. Okay, let's go to the peak one. So if I have the queue for A, it will look like here, like this: person A, person B, person C, person D, like this. So this person came first in the queue and is standing in the queue. This is second, this is third and fourth. Now what exactly peak means? Peak means I want to see who is in the ticket counter, who will go next. So when I peak this, the value of first item will come, that is the person A will be displayed. Okay, so for the peak. But let's say peak is removed, he's gone. He took the ticket, he's gone. Now when I do the peak, what will I see? I will see the person B. And when person B is gone, whenever I try to run the peek, peek means what person is going next. Remove will remove this item, but peek will not remove. Peek will only see which item is going to be removed. Means who is next to go out. That is what peek means. Peek means the person who will be removed, show that person. So in this case, if I run the peek, it will show person C, but if I call the remove, it will remove the person C. So there is a difference between peek and remove. Let me write down the meaning. This will show the person who is about to be removed. Okay, so this is the something. So if I call remove, remove will remove this person which I will see in the peek, but peek will only show the person C. Peek will not remove it. Peek is only for display purpose. Who is going next out? So let's write down the peek function. So peek function is something, we have to show this first person. What will I write down in the peek? I want everyone to answer as per their knowledge. Just give me the private message. Don't give the public message so that no one copied you. I want to see only the person who is going to be removed. What should I put here in the peek? Okay, Desti has given answer. Let me see who is next. Anand has given answer, but Anand's answer is not right because I want to only see this person C. I don't want to see this whole array. Peek means who is going to be removed. So that is the person who is in the ticket counter. I want that. Who is buying the ticket? Who will be going out after buying the ticket? Yes, that is the right. Desti Anand has given the answer. Ole, right. Your answer is right. Yes. Okay, we are not using A here. Here, this is data. So if you put A, it doesn't mean. This is example which I am showing you. But in reference to this function, this is data. I want with reference to data. Okay. No more answers. Okay, let me put the right answer, and everybody who has answered is correct. Their answer is correct. Yes. So, since all elements will be in the data, and I have to remove this first element, so if I want to see who is going out next will be, I have to say like this, return this dot data, and I have to return 0th element. Okay, 0th element means the first element. Now what will happen if this is empty? Then the 0th element will be undefined and I will get undefined here. So this peek will give me undefined if this data is empty. Otherwise, if something is there in this data, I will be able to see that. Okay. So this is the answer of the peek. Okay, let's go to the size. Now, since you have learned a lot about the arrays, I want to know who can give me the size. I want to see how many people are there in the queue. So what is the size? Okay, Desti, Anand. Okay, length is not function. So, but you have written length right. Anand is length right. Okay, yeah. Yes is right. Ali is right. So to see the size, I will say return this dot data dot length. Since this dot data is array, if I want to see how many elements are there in this array, I will use the length. So I will be able to see the size. So there is one more function generally people put nowadays, and that function is called empty. They want to see whether data is empty or not. Though peek will give the data is empty or not, but some people does not like peek for checking the emptiness. They create a new function called as empty. But we can also check with the peek, as I said, that if data is empty, 0 will always return undefined, and we will know that this is empty. Okay, so this is one way to see the peek. But another way, I will write down the function if in case it is being asked in the interview what is the empty function, then you can tell how to write the empty function. Let me write down the empty function also. So empty function is what it does. It checks if the data is empty or not. So to check that data is empty or not, I will type, I will not ask this question. I will just say, so it will check if this dot data dot length is equal to 0. That means it is empty. If this length is 0, that means it is empty, and I will pass return equal to true. Return true. And else I will say return equal to false. Okay, so I check if the data is length is 0, that means it is empty. Then I pass return true, and I pass return false if it has some elements in it. Okay, so those who have not written the peek, size, and empty, they can write down these three functions. I'll give you 1 minute to finish this. Let me know when you're done with these three. I will complete this queue, and I will give one example of this one, and then I'm done with this today. Okay. So this empty is also done. Let's go for the display. So this display is only for my purpose. It's only for my use, and no one be using. If you see in this whole function, I have not used the console.log because all the function there should be no console.log. But since this display, if I want to write the real queue, I will not put this function. This function is not needed. Okay, but for the sake of our purpose, for our experimental purpose, since we are learning, I want to see what exactly is the value of this data. So I will just say this function like this. I will just do console.log data is, I will say this dot data. So that means if I display it, I will be able to see what exactly the value in the data is. Generally, console.log is not there in any of your real programming code. This console.log is only for the debugging purpose or for your display purpose. Otherwise, this console.log is not needed. But since we are learning, I have to put this one. And if you have not completed this, write down this function, and then we are done with this function, and we will try to experiment it now, how this function is used. Okay, just finish this empty and display. Is it done? Okay. Okay, so what we did, we created a function add item, remove item, peek item, size of the queue, empty items, empty queue, and display. We added this function 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 functions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 functions. So on Monday, I will ask every one of you to write down this function without looking anywhere, and I will give my, like a live share. We did live share a few days back. We will do the live share, and we will do this. Everyone has to come in my computer. That means in the live share, and you have to write down this whole function without looking anywhere. And that's the reason. So you have to prepare it hard, learn line by line, so that you should be able to write this whole queue without looking anywhere. Okay, then we will do this for all the data structures, which we will do in future. So those who don't know about the live share, I will just want to tell you, this is the Visual Studio Code. There is one extension called as live share. This is called live share. So you have to add this extension. You have to just install that extension, and then we will be able to do the live share. That means you can come into my Visual Studio Code and you can write down the code in my Visual Studio Code, and I can see, or everyone will be able to see it. So just download this extension live share in the Visual Studio Code, so that we should be able to share each other. Whatever I will write, you can see. Whatever you will write, I can see that. Okay, now let's try to implement whether this is functioning properly or not. So I created this function and I created object. So once we created this function, we can create object from this function like this, var q1 equal to new queue. When I say new queue, object will be created from this function. Let me just give this function to you in the chat. Okay, okay, here it's not going. So maybe everyone has written it, but I will put in the Telegram chat. If you're not in the Telegram, you can join in the Telegram. So I put it in the Telegram chat. Okay, now let's try to work on this one. I will also give the URL in my website, which I have, so that you can use this one. Let me give that also. One second, let me put it there. Okay, I will share you after in 2 minutes. Once I finish this, I will share the URL. Okay, so this function I created a new object. Now let me press enter. So when I press enter, I created this object q1. So everything which I will be doing it now is based on the q1. So I will say q1.add, q1.display, q1.empty, q1.peek, remove size. Everything will be related to this q1, because q1 is nothing but this function, and we created the object from the function. Okay, let's do some manipulation now, so that we see that it is working fine. So first thing I will check q1.display, what is there in the data. Since I have not put anything, display will be giving me empty array. So it's saying data is empty array, because I have not done anything. I have not added any item in the queue. Let's try to add some items. q1.add, I'm adding item A, then I'm adding again q1.add B, q1.add C, q1.add D. Okay, let's add this one, 4 items in the queue. Now if I want to see what are the items, I will again say q1.display to see what's happening in the q1. So first I added A, then B, then C, and then D. So first person to go is A, second B, third C, fourth D. So if I do display, it is saying A, B, C, and D. All the items are there in my data. Okay, let's go. Now I will remove the items. So before removing, I want to see which atom is going to be removed. So first I will see the peak. So I will say Q1 dot peak. So it's saying is on the ticket counter. He will be leaving soon. I want to see the size of this one. So I can say Q1 dot size. It is 4 because we have the 4 elements. I want to see whether it is empty or not. So I will say Q1 dot empty. Is it empty? False, because it is not empty. We have the elements in it. If I would have created a new one, var Q2 is equal to new Q, then Q2 dot empty would be true because Q2 is empty. We don't have anything in the Q2. If I do Q2 dot peak, it will give me undefined because it is empty. But if I do Q1 dot peak, it will show me A because we have A atom. Now let's try to remove all the atoms. So I will use the remove function Q1 dot remove, and it should remove A. It's removing A. Let's try to see peak again. What is peak? Sorry, Q1 dot peak. Now B is the one next to go. A is gone because I removed it. Now I peak the Q1 dot peak. Now I'll do Q1 dot remove again. Once I do Q1 dot remove, B is gone. Now if I do peak, it will show C because we have C and D only left. If you want to confirm, you can do display. C and D are left. Let's do Q1 dot remove again. Now C is removed. If I do Q1 dot peak, I get D. Let's remove D also. And Q1 dot peak. Undefined because all are gone. If I want to display it again, it is data is empty array. So we added 4 elements using the add method, and we removed all the elements using the remove method. In between, we check the peak method, we check the display method, and we check the empty method also to confirm all functions are working properly. So if you want to test, I can give you one more in the chat. You can create. Okay, so I give sample creation object in the chat. You can experiment with that. Okay, so this is all about the queue. So this is only the basic things we did in the queue. There are some program which we have to do in the queue, which we will do on Monday or Tuesday, depending on once everyone has remembered this queue function. We will do on Tuesday or Monday. We will see some live example of the queue, how the queues are done. Okay. Any questions on this queue? Have you understood this queue properly with all the functions of the queue, or is there any problem in understanding? Also remember, you have to create these 6 functions on Monday, and everyone has to write each line of code without looking, and you have to just remember by heart this, understand it, by heart this, and do it. Okay, I will give you, wait for 1 minute, I will just give you the link for this queue so that you can prepare it. Okay, 1 second. Queue data structure. Okay, let me copy this code. Okay, I will give you the link here in the chat if you want to. If you want this whole function, so this is the URL where you can go and see about the queue. Okay.